How is everybody? How was the drive here? So you're stressed out then. Anyway, I think we're probably ready to get started. What do you think? So thanks for coming. I'm Shelby Stoddard. If you don't know me by, I'm a nurse practitioner here at FMI, Optimal Health. And so we're going to talk about stress and kind of what we can do to, kind of why it happens and, how it affects the body really. Because I just feel it's such a big thing these days. I'm seeing more and more stress related issues in clinic. And so just trying to kind of just talk about that and how we can mitigate that and the importance of reducing our stressors. Because stress is sort of can be ambiguous term, really. It can, I mean, good. We all have stress, right? We can't say like, oh, we're never going to have any stress, but we can do things to help mitigate the response to stress and the effects it has on our body long term. We can have stress from this life in general. We can have stress from being a caretaker to our family members. It can be relationship stress, no matter if it's your, spouse, your kids, your, sister, brother, however that looks, work, um, stress driving, stress giving a talk, stress, all these things, stress in, just in general. And so, what we're really looking at too is in clinic is your lifestyle, your symptoms, and is stress a big part of that? And so you have these pages on the organs and body. It's a little bit in depth, but yet I think I like pictures. Glimpsed. So I like pictures. And so if I can see, what organ is affecting what, then it just makes it a lot easier or to kind of navigate that. So we talked a little bit about stresses. So physical stressors, and you can even be food stressors too. Alcohol, uh, if you're hungry, you're not eating and you're hungry, that's a stressor. Extreme temperature changes, those are all stressors. So that's kind of what if we were in clinic, we would talk about all these different things and how what you do in your life and, you know, who you're helping take care of and those things just to kind of see where you're at. Um, then we can kind of see on this page it's got the activation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So stress, when we're looking at it, we're looking at like biomarkers. So like cortisol levels. If you've ever heard of that before, if you're a patient of mine, you know that we've likely tested cortisol. And that's a marker that we're looking at. The adrenal glands, they sit on top of the kidneys. So you can kind of see, it says here adrenal glands. That little big bean thing is the adrenals or the kidneys. And then the thing on top is the adrenal glands. And so the adrenal glands have a mechanism or direct relation to the hypothalamus, which is up here in the brain. So we got this big loop of things that can happen in from here to here. And so stress puts a huge stressor or makes the hypothalamus work even harder. So then you're increasing more of the cortisol. Your kidneys are more stressed. Your adrenal glands are more stressed, and then you can see it puts stress on the heart, on your blood vessels, it makes us have more fat tissue or more fat cells, and then makes our muscles change too. So we can get less muscle mass. So over time, increased cortisol levels can make us not have as good a physique too. Let's talk about, so there's two different hormones, major hormones that we look at in the adrenal gland itself. So cortisol being one, that's a part of the adrenal gland that it excretes. And then there's another one called aldosterone, which is another part of the adrenal gland. But we're looking at more cardiovascular health too. So the adrenal glands have a huge role in our cardiovascular health, meaning what are our blood fats doing, what our cholesterol is doing, how much inflammation we have in our blood vessels, and how all that plays a role in keeping things good or not. So we look at that in if you were coming to the clinic, we would look at those things too. So we're looking at all these different things to see how your body is responding to stress. Or is it compensating? Is it not? Is it, what is it doing? Our body does a really good job of trying to keep our systems in balance, or like what they say is homeostasis. So if you get this surge of cortisol from the adrenal glands and your hypothalamus is affected, then your pituitary kicks in, your thyroid can kick in, your gut microbiome, all those um, markers in there can kick in to kind of keep things balanced. So our body does a really good job of keeping homeostasis, but it also, when it's stressed chronically, and that's kind of what we see more now as the chronic stress, that's when things go change. Um, and I think we're seeing a lot more um, cardiovascular issues as far as high lipids, high triglycerides, the fat in the blood. We're seeing more inflammation in the blood vessels. We're seeing higher blood pressure. Um, we're seeing immune system changes. We're seeing gut changes. So the big thing now is kind of looking at the gut microbiome. And the reason is because this cortisol over time kind of makes those cells become bigger and bigger. And so things leak out. So we get that leaky gut. So we get proteins and toxins and things that are supposed to be, out of the body are going back into the bloodstream. And so that's increasing our stress response even more. There's a couple of stages of stress. So when we have acute stress or stress that sort of happens right now, we kind of are in fight or flight. So our bodies gets alarmed, cortisol goes up, we get alarmed, and we get more of hormones released, and that's our stress response. And then over time, after a few minutes or an hours, it comes back down. So another part of the nervous system comes into play and brings us back to normal. But when we have chronic stress or chronic cortisol levels that are high, our body's ability to do that is really off. And sometimes it can't do that. And so you start feeling more anxious. You start being more irritable. You start getting more with cortisol levels. We get this inner tube right here. Like it's kind of where it happens. We get fatigued, extremely fatigued. Our immune system is off, or we get sicker. Our digestion's off. We can get diarrhea. We can get constipation. We can get a whole host of, we get it all. You get both of it. You're more prone to more bloody diarrhea. So ulcerative colitis can happen that way. You get burnout. So you just feel like you can't handle things that you could handle before, you can't handle. Or you're just overwhelmed with things that you could do before, and now it just seems like it's a huge hurdle to do. Concentration's another one. Big change. So focus, concentration, brain fog. So a lot of times you'll have also the burnout or the fatigue in the afternoon. So for between 1 and 4 p.m., you'll get this really overwhelming sense of like, oh my gosh, I need to lay down. Or I just can't think right. Or you're doing something and you'll be able to like, you go over here. I can't finish it. And then you're like, well, what was I doing? That has a lot to do with your adrenal glands and cortisol as well. When we have these chronic cortisol or chronic stressors in our lives, it can also cause us to have other illnesses. So like diabetes, again, also we were talking about ulcerative colitis, cancers, depression, anxiety, a host of heart attacks. So headaches is another big thing. So that's another reason that we want to see what's going on and see how we can best, help you individually. Because not every person is the same, and not everyone's going to respond the same. Your markers might not look the same as someone else's that has similar stress or even less stress or more stress. So that's why it's really good to just, yes, talk about it with people, but know that your situation isn't going to be the same as someone else's too. It can be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. Some things that we do to help reduce the stress is working with health coaches to help with different tools. So like meditation, talking about, I don't know if you've heard about earthing, going out and getting outside, put your feet in the ground. It's just, it's a real good thing. But one thing that we do at Optimal Health is IV therapy. And so using vitamin C IV therapy is a really good way to help build, repair, um, mitigate that stress response because vitamin C lives in the adrenal glands. It helps it also when you have cortisol release, you're releasing vitamin C. So if you constantly have this increase in cortisol, you're reducing your vitamin C levels too. And so you want to replace those. Yes, you can take them by mouth, but you're not getting the doses that you need for correction. And then also when you're using IV therapy, you're bypassing the whole digestive system. So if that's off, then you're not getting, that absorption. But IV therapy, it's going right to the cell. It's going right to the adrenal glands to be able to help build and repair and replace what you've been missing. Another thing you can add to your IV vitamin bag is vitamin B5 and B6 because they too both help the adrenal glands build and repair. And when we have that constant stress, we know by checking levels that those B5 and B6 levels are often very low too. So replacing them with supplements, yes, but IVs is just a lot easier and a lot more quicker action rather than having to wait for things to process in the gut. How often we recommend doing that depends on really how stressed you are and what those cortisol levels look like. Also other biomarkers too, looking at inflammation markers, looking at your blood cells, your immune system markers, your electrolytes, kidney function, liver function, lipids, triglycerides, all these things that can be off related to cortisol. We're looking at them too. But the IVs can help even bring those numbers even into a more manageable range. These other pages that we have here, so this one particular has the heart. And you can see, again, the adrenal glands are kind of down here at the bottom. I wish I should have like a projector or something. Sorry. Okay. I'm having a hard time seeing it, so I'm sorry if you are. You can see how the adrenal glands, again, on top of the kidneys, how they have an effect on the heart, on the blood vessels, on the pituitary gland, on the hypothalamus, which is up in the brain. That's your higher centers for hormone balance. Over time will disrupt your nervous system, your immune system, your blood vessels, your gut health, your brain, your skin, everything. So it's really an important thing to look at. And I just have seen so much stress in people, and not even like older people, it's teenagers. It's 20-year-olds that I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of inflammation around the heart. So a biomarker that we look at, HSCRP, that is being elevated in many, many people. And and if you look at that and look at their cortisol levels are off all day long, or they're skyrocketing in the morning, at night. And it's just something that we really need to be mindful of. Even if you think you're handling stress. So handling stress and really reducing stress is two different things. So handling stress, I see many people that are handling stress, but their numbers are just off the charts. And so really not handling it because outwardly you're feeling like you're handling it, but by your markers, you're not. And so it's just leading from one thing to another. So just addressing that and talking about it and seeing how we can make it, best for everyone to feel better, because we really want to feel better. A lot of times when you're coming into the clinics, you're just like, oh, I just don't feel good. I just have this overrun, like I'm fatigued. I just can't have any motivation or energy to do this. I can't handle some things. So that really directs us to your adrenal glands. Number one. So that's another little sheet. And then we look, and we have another one here too. So that another one is the gut. So it kind of shows, those tight junctions in your gut kind of open up and things are leaking out. That's kind of hard to see. It's small. I apologize for that. But these are other markers. So IL-6, ILB1, TNF alpha, all these other things that we look at as biomarkers for stress are coming from the gut. So there's another ways that we know that the cortisol is off, the adrenal glands are off, that we want to, do some addressing some other things too. And then there's this last one here that shows, again, stress, and then how it can affect your immune system with, different immunoglobulins, so IgA that it releases, some other enzymes that it releases. But it also is just showing you too, like, even just taking an examination can cause stress. That's not a bad thing. It's just if it's over time is what we're looking at, right? So I've, kids in college or kids in school, helping them mitigate that stress response is really important. So, yes, depends on what you will be doing. Our goal would be that you do IV therapy quarterly, so once a quarter. How much you need in the interim is very individual, but I would say a majority of the people that I'm doing IV therapy for are doing it once a week for 4 weeks, then every 2 weeks for about 2 or 3 months. And then after that, we kind of see, is it quarterly? Is it every other month? Is it monthly? Just kind of see how that goes. Because we're also monitoring your levels as you go too. Especially when we do incorporate IV therapy more frequently, we want to see a change. We don't want to just keep doing it, and not, well, is it working or is it not? Well, we go by symptoms too, but you want to see your markers change. Yes, we would do. So we wouldn't necessarily do all of the tests again. We would do your most significant ones because that can get costly for you too. So whatever's most prominent, you start doing. We would focus on that one, and go from there. Yeah. Good question. Yes. Well, so the IVs aren't going to last forever, right? But we're trying to get that build and repair quick. We're giving your body those minerals and molecules and those vitamins that your adrenal glands need, so we're not secreting so much cortisol. So yes, it's not going to last forever, right? So that's why we're going to do it a little bit more often at first, but we're also incorporating other things. So we're incorporating supplements for long term. We're looking at your gut health. We're looking at your cardiovascular health. We're looking at other things that are tailored for you so we can get this long-term reduction in the cortisol. Yep. It's absorbed faster, IV therapy, because you get more of the efficacy of it because you're not having to go through the gut. So when you take vitamin C or other supplements, anything, when you go through the gut, you have this, the process, mouth, stomach, intestines. So mouth to anus, basically. So you have to do all these different processes. Enzymes have to be optimal. Your pH in your gut has to be optimal. So if all those things are off, you're not getting as much absorption. So not saying that you can't get there at some point with supplements. Yes, you can. Takes a long time, a lot longer than if you're doing IV therapy. Yeah. So our goal was never to have you do IV therapy in that length forever. Like that would not be sustainable, right? We want to get lifestyles to be better, so you're feeling better. So you're on a few supplements that to feel good that you need. And then, at times of stress and times of when you're sick and things, you can add the IVs as you need to. Some people need them for a lot longer than others, right? But it just is very individual. Yeah, but they work really, really well. So there's a page that says potential systemic benefits of, this is an earthing one. It just tells you the benefits of earthing because we talked about that. So I thought, well, that might be kind of fun. I'm a believer in putting your feet in the grass. Putting your feet in the grass, in the water, in the mud, whatever, on the dirt. Oh, you can do whenever it fits in your schedule. It doesn't have to look any certain way. You do it however fits you. Yes. For as long as you can. I mean, obviously, you're not going to stand there for hours. Maybe you will. I don't know. But begin to be realistic about things too. Yeah. But you got to just get it in your schedule. Like tonight, just take your shoes off and walk out to your car. Go out in the grass out. Like, what? You got to do it however you can, right? So, and I mean, there's lots of things you can do. As far, but obviously, we're talking about IV therapy. But like I said, earthing. You can do. Yeah, it was grounding. Um, red light therapy is really good, very good. I love red light therapy. Infrared sauna, yeah, is really good. Another thing that works good for adrenal glands is the flow presso. So that's that lymph massage. That thing is amazing for a lot of things. Now, you might not feel good at first when you first do it because you're getting rid of toxins, but it's really good to help your whole body reduce toxins, reduce stress, reduce cortisol, help your immune system, help your guts. You lay in it. I love it. It just squeezes you, helps your lymph system, it stimulates your lymph system. We don't really do a lot of lymph in our day, right? Like rebounding is good for your lymph system. That's starting to come back, which is great. Vibration plates are good for your lymph system. The flow pressor massage is good. And infrared sauna is really good too. So, IV therapy, you can do. We can do lymph specific IVs to help drain the lymph. So hydrochloric acid, it's not like, we're not putting from the bottle. It's the pharmacy makes it. It's really good to help your lymph system as well. Not necessarily adrenal specific, but it is immune specific, which will help your adrenals too. Let's say if we're going to do specific adrenal gland cortisol support for IVs, vitamin C, B5, B6, and then we have an amino acid blend that we can add into that really helps balance that nervous system because most people are in fight or flight mode. They're releasing more epinephrine, more norepinephrine, those fight or flight hormones. It helps kind of bring that parasympathetic nervous system in and just help calm things. So helps with anxiety, helps with depression. Vitamin C it has a lot of science now that helps with depression and anxiety too, because you're really helping support the gut, which depression is related to gut health. So as far as biomarkers that we're looking at, we're looking at your immune system. So CBC, you've heard that before. CMP. We're looking at insulin levels. We're looking at hemoglobin A1C. We're looking at your cortisol levels. We're looking at prolactin levels, hormone levels. We're looking at thyroid for sure. Thyroid has a lot, can be really stressed from high cortisol over time as well. You have that hypothalamus, adrenal, thyroid, that all is connected. So if you come into the clinic, we would definitely look at your thyroid as well. And not only just your thyroid TSH, but we're looking at the T4, the T3, antibodies to the thyroid, reverse T3 to make sure you don't have more of that. So you have more of the, energy part of your thyroid available. Looking at inflammation markers, like again, HSCRP, CRP, looking at your iron levels. Sometimes iron levels are really high, and that tells me a lot about oxidative stress or things that can be increasing your cortisol as well. So this is kind of what, this doesn't have a patient name on it, but this is when patients come in to see me. So we'll talk about their lab results and then how the symptom that they're doing. And it always has a theme. So the last few I've seen today, stress, high cortisol, huge amounts of stress, young people not sleeping, up all night working, 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And they're already having this huge fatigue, thyroid changes in their cardiovascular system, changes in their hypothalamus, thyroid, adrenals, changes in their, I said immune system. And again, this is all of the abnormal labs, symptoms, and all related to high cortisol. So it's not just because we're older or we have all these other, it's younger too. It's all of us. And it's just being mindful of those things and asking for help and using technique tools that we have and getting that or not, it's not necessarily diagnosis, but just looking at your biomarkers to see where you're at, see how your body's responding. I was kind of wanted to be just hone in on cortisol, hone in on adrenals, hone in on some symptoms, how it can be, we can do to help as far as, IV therapy, the IV therapy, some other things that we can do. And then really I want to delve into it with you more in depth.